Greetings, every species around the globe. It is Frank the Luigi fan, and as of today, and only today, presenting to you all a new kind of thing to the channel that I want to ease my way into because I'm pretty new at this. So we're going to start off with something simple, something nostalgic, something I played a lot as a kid, and that is
close enough. Mario Bros. And just Mario Bros, no Super included. Is an arcade game released in June 21st, 1983 in Japan, practically a month later in North America. It's Nintendo's 24th entry in the arcade video game market, according to this website anyway. Which makes sense considering the fact that they did make games before Donkey Kong, but they were either only experimental, only available in Japan, which also makes sense because Nintendo is a company from Japan, or they just flat out failed. Donkey Kong was Nintendo's first major hit. It was their first game to be released internationally, specifically North America.
This man is lying to you. The first game to be released in North America was Radar Scope, but it failed miserably. The same idiot who recorded the video is now realizing it while editing it.
And judging by the art style, you can clearly see that they were trying to capture the eyes of North Americans. And it worked. Like, big time. So, as time went on, Nintendo started releasing games outside of Japan, Mario Bros being their 5th release. Also, the promotional art for this game is pretty cool. Pretty simple, but gets the job done. It's also pretty cute as well. While Mario Bros wasn't as successful, groundbreaking, and or culturally defining as Donkey Kong, it was definitely a money-making machine for Nintendo. Selling 2,000 cabinets by July of '83 in the US, Game Machine from Japan listed it on their July 15, 1983 issue as being the 3rd most successful new table arcade unit of the month, and sold 3,800 cabinets by November 11, 1983 in the US, and managed to still be valuable during the crash of 1983.
This game has been a huge part of my childhood. Sure, I had Mario 2, but that game was a little too hard for me when I was a kid. Mario Bros was very easy for me to pick up, play, and go as far as I could. But after all these years, is Mario Bros still fun today, or is nostalgia just apply to me? Well, let's find out. Just a reminder, I'm going to be using the Super Mario Advance version of Mario Bros, as it is the only version of Mario Bros I have access to. All the other versions you'll see throughout the video, those are the ones I don't really have access to. But this one in particular, I do. So just keep that in mind.
Surprisingly, there is some lore behind Mario Bros. The game was designed by our Lord and Savior Shigeru Miyamoto and Gunpei Yokoi, both of which were the lead developers of Donkey Kong. After the success of Donkey Kong, Nintendo wanted to make a game where Mario is the protagonist. To fit the setting of Mario Bros. And because of Mario's appearance, Miyamoto thought they should change Mario's role from a carpenter to a plumber. Mario originally being a carpenter was something I did not know. Also, listen. A person with a ginormous bushy mustache and overalls doesn't quite scream carpenter to me. Also, when did carpenters fight gorillas? Luigi, on the other hand, went from working in a bottling company to becoming a plumber alongside his brother. I guess where Mario goes, he follows, eh? Speaking of Luigi, many people say that Mario Bros is his debut into the Mario franchise. And they're right, just not the arcade version. So, get this. A couple months before the arcade version dropped, there was a Game & Watch with the same name only released in Japan. Instead of plumbing, Mario and Luigi are working at a bottling plant and must prepare packages of bottles to load onto a delivery truck of a waiting driver. Wait, hold up, how did you go from carpentry to working at a bottling company? Something ain't adding up! This Game & Watch marked the official debut of Luigi in the Mario franchise, and Mario Bros. Arcade would only be his second game, with him being locked to player 2. Which has been that way up until Luigi's Mansion, so yeah. Should I go over the Game & Watch? Alright, I'll make this quick. Unlike Mario Bros. On the arcade where Luigi is locked to player 2, Luigi plays a crucial role in the Game & Watch. In the game, you control both the brothers, Mario on the right side and Luigi on the left side. Mario must first take a pallet out of a machine on the lowest level and place it on the lowest of the 5 conveyor belts. As it continues to the other side of the belt, it will pass through a divider and a bottle will be placed. Luigi must take the package and place it on the conveyor belt above the previous one, which takes it back to Mario, and Mario has to do the same thing. Keep doing this until you hit the highest conveyor belt, where Mario sends it over, package gets sealed, and Luigi yeets it into the truck. And it rinses and repeats. If you get 8 packages in the truck, you get more points, Mario and Luigi take a breather, then get yelled at by their loony loofah of a boss, and the process repeats. If you miss 3 packages, it's game over. Yeah, I think that's everything. I've never played it, can't really comment on it. It looks cool. I'd like to try it out someday, but yeah, I've got nothing else to say. Let's just move on already. So now that's out of the way, here's the $1 million question. Where did the name Mario come from? After quitting the carpenter job, Jumpman wasn't really a suitable name for a plumber, so they had to come up with a different name. Good thing Nintendo was behind on rent! In 1981, Nintendo began renting a warehouse in... What the fuck? How do you pronounce that? What the fuck? Nintendo began renting a warehouse in Tukwila. I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. For their headquarters in the US from a person named Mario Segale. Just like your typical Segale would visit the warehouse to collect overdue rent from Nintendo. Segale was so infuriated by the overdue rent that he berated Nintendo of America president at the time, Minoru Arakawa. So, Arakawa and the rest of the staff decided to rename Jumpman to Mario. This story was later contradicted by the former warehouse manager Don James, who stated in 2012 that he and Arakawa named the character after Segale as a joke because Segale was so reclusive and so isolated that none of the employees had ever even met him. So yeah, that's how Mario got his name. I think that's it for the lore. Yeah, we can move on now. There's not much to the story, so I'll keep it brief. The story revolves around 2 plumbers who are twin brothers named Mario and Luigi. They're in the sewer system of New York, which is overrun by a bunch of enemies, and Mario and Luigi have to take them out. Hey, all part of being a plumber. Again, not much. It's a Mario game. What do you expect? But a little fun fact. Miyamoto wanted the setting to be New York because of its subterranean network, which is pretty cool. Yeah, before the Mushroom Kingdom, New York was our main setting. Moving on. Just for the record, I'm not going over ports. Arcade. It's literally the original. The Famicom and NES came first after the arcade version, with the Famicom version releasing September 7th, 1983 in Japan. Again, company from Japan. Makes sense. And the NES version coming out June 23 years later in North America and a couple months after in Europe. There is no difference. They're basically the same version. I haven't played them, but they do look pretty fun, and they did pretty well, in fact. The Famicom version of Mario Bros. Has sold more than 1.63 million copies in Japan, and the NES version went on to sell 2.28 million cartridges worldwide. This is probably the best the game has ever done sales-wise, thanks to these versions, and honestly, I can see why. If people were to or have played Mario Bros., it would definitely be the NES Famicom versions. Hold on, I'm just gonna refer to them as the NES version because they're the same and it's easier for me. Yeah, I'll do that. Way more accessible, the sounds are charming, the enemy sprites are iconic, and probably the most faithful one to the arcade. This is a great version of Mario Bros. And probably the only good version. Hey, maybe I'm being too harsh. After all, we got the Atari versions. Yay. You may be asking, how did Mario Bros. Get a release on the Atari systems? Here's a little backstory. Once upon a time, Nintendo gave Atari the rights to publish Mario Bros. For both consoles and computers outside of Japan. So before North America had the NES version, they had the Atari 2600 and 5200. 7800 came after the NES, and the PCs were Apple II and Commodore 64, but those got canceled. So let's start off with the Atari 7800. It's the most powerful of the three, and it came out 2 years after the NES, so it has to be good, right? It's alright. Never played any of these versions, so I can't say much about how they control, so I have to go by my eyes. But this one looks fine. Colors are fine. The sprites look passable, but the sound effects and the mixing freaking sucks in this version. I mean, if you can get past the it's an alright version. There's no real reason to play it over the NES version or even the arcade version, but it's something, I guess. The Atari 5200 came out 4 years prior, and this is even worse than the 7800. This is bad. Like, this is pretty freaking bad. Glitches we've never seen once in the arcade version. The sprites are dookie. The graphics look like... Dude! Like, Nokia phone games look better than this. And the color scheme, my God, what is this? This is freaking downright trash. It looks like a freaking Game Boy game. And the sounds... My eardrums hurt. Yeah, this sucks. One of the worst ways to play Mario Bros. But let's dial it back a bit. Listen, I know that this is 1983. This was all people had if they didn't want to hit the arcade. And people grew up with this version. But who was seriously asking for this? Even during '83, the Atari 2600 was being pushed to its limits with games like Tunnel Runner and Space Shuttle. They tried to put an arcade title from that exact year onto a console from 1977 and it worked as well as you expected. On the positive side, the sounds are tolerable. I mean, they're not good, but it isn't loud and absolutely atrocious like the iterations that came after it. And the color scheme isn't the ugly green that was in 5200. The final thing I'll say about this, it's Mario Bros. At its core, it's just Mario Bros. On a weaker console. But even that couldn't save this dumpster fire. The graphics are horrible, the enemies are way too slow, the fireball is way too fast, and the sprites are abysmal. Look at this. Look at this! The coin looks so bad, like it doesn't even look like a coin at all. And the animation looks wrong, like they tried so hard to make it look good. The power block is just a rectangle, and Mario looks alright, but it's definitely the worst he's ever looked out of these versions. It's honestly surprising that this version managed to do so well in sales. Probably because the better version wasn't out yet. Okay, I'm going to try to excuse this. It's the Atari 2600. It was a very early game console. It was all people had back then, and while this is probably the worst iteration of Mario Bros., they did what they could with the console. I guess. I mean, could have done better, honestly. This is pretty low for Atari 2600 standards, but you know, that's just me. But we're not done yet. You have to head over to the Big EU because it has 3 exclusive versions of Mario Bros. That being Amstrad CPC, ZX Spectrum, and Commodore 64. All published by Ocean Software in 1987. Yeah, I guess the game did get a Commodore 64 version after all. These are all PC iterations of the game. Atari had a partition with Ocean once upon a time, and they decided to let Ocean publish home computer ports for the European market. That's pretty cool. Are they any good? Well, I hope so, because we're going over them right now. Amstrad CPC. It's something. The graphics are odd. Mario's acceleration is a little too fast. The way the enemies are placed are weird. The fireball shows up way too early in the game. The sound of Mario's footsteps are annoying. The Amstrad CPC exists. Is it good? No. Is it better than the 2600? Yeah. Would I play it? Yeah. Not because I want to play Mario Bros. On it, but just to try it out, I guess. ZX Spectrum. It's literally just Amstrad CPC, but worse. At least I don't have to deal with annoying footstep sound effects. Still better than the 2600. Commodore 64. Why does this sound like a song from Geometry Dash? It looks better than all the Ataris combined, and certainly looks better than the computer versions we just went over. This is probably one of the better versions of the game. It still doesn't hold a candle to the arcade and NES versions. The footstep sound effects are annoying. Mario's way too fast. Fireball shows up at the first phase, and the enemies come out too early. It's decent, but there are better and accessible versions to play. So, just watching this video, it seems like the arcade and NES versions are the best ways to play Mario Bros. All the versions that we went over are either not good or just plain bad. Well, you better psych yourself up because we're still not done. But this version would be the version that changed the legacy of Mario Bros. Forever. This version made Mario Bros. Memorable. This version is my childhood. Mario Bros. Classic is a remake of Mario Bros. Released alongside Super Mario Bros. 2 in a game entitled Super Mario Advance, released on March 21st, 2001 in Japan, 2 months later in North America, 11 days later in Oceania and Europe, and 3 years later in China. This is probably one of the most well-known versions of Mario Bros. If you're like me, who own a GBA and one of the Super Mario Advance games, or Superstar Saga because that's in it as well, you're most likely going to be aware of this remake. I certainly didn't know that this was a remake up until 2013. So, when I was talking about the NES version, I said that it was the only good version of Mario Bros. I lied. Mario Bros. Classic is by far the definitive way to play Mario Bros. Best controls out of all the versions, best graphics, best use of the color scheme, sound effects are on point, the mixing is well done, the new design for the turtle is pretty cool, the music slaps, and best multiplayer for sure. My only nitpick with this one is as the game goes on, it starts looking less like a sewer system. But it's not a huge deal. This is unarguably, hands down, on bro, for real, the best version of Mario Bros. I almost forgot to talk about the gameplay. It's pretty simple. You got 6 platforms, 4 pipes, and 1 power block. Your goal is to defeat every enemy that comes out of the 2 pipes at the top of the level. Defeat them all, you move on to the next phase. The 3 main enemies are the Shell Creeper, which is the first enemy you encounter, Sidestepper, which isn't active until phase 5, and the Fighter Fly, which isn't active until phase 7. So, how do you beat these guys? You can't take them head on. But what you can do is go under a platform, jump, and hit them from below, and then they'll be flipped. Once they're flipped, you can kick them off the stage, but only when they're flipped. The catch is, after a few seconds, these guys will get up, and once they get back up, their colors will change, and they'll get faster. If they're not flipped, then you're dead. The game will get harder, and you fight more enemies and distractions the more you progress through the levels. Unlike most Mario games, this game has no end to it. This is your typical play until you drop arcade games, but that's most arcade games in the 80s. And as an endless game, it's pretty good. Instead of your typical endless games where you dodge hazards and get temporary power-ups that help you get more points or advance you further into your journey, you have no power-ups, only a few lives. You are required to move around and do some platforming to dodge hazards, take out enemies, and collect coins that can only be earned by killing enemies. This game is a lot faster paced than its predecessor, but still requires a methodical approach to get past these levels. With good reflexes and by knowing the layout, you can plan strategies to take out enemies quickly and efficiently or clear out other distractions. While Mario Bros. Doesn't really have a super complex gameplay style, it's still a little difficult to learn, master everything, and play very well. But the game is still easy to pick up nonetheless. The game is practically replayable, and it has a fun challenge to it that makes you want to play over and over again to improve upon your skill and get a higher score or reach higher phases. While I will always think that the GBA version is the definitive Mario Bros. Experience with its tighter controls, better graphics, etc., The arcade version and the NES versions are still classics, and alongside the GBA, they're the best versions to experience Mario Bros. Mario Bros is that game that seems to be forgotten over time. I mean, if you think of the name Mario Bros, you will most likely think of its successor. I mean, it's pretty understandable though, because most people who were around during that time played Super Mario Bros, and it was a landmark title for Nintendo. It did better than Mario Bros, in fact. While dated today, video games would not be where it's at without it, and it was the start to a beloved franchise. But even that game wouldn't have been able to run without its predecessor walking.
So while Mario Bros is quite dated and didn't quite earn the title Super unlike the game after it, it's still pretty good fun. I mean, I rarely play it nowadays, but when I do, I spend more time with it than I should. It's still just as good as I remembered, and I definitely recommend giving it a shot if you have the chance. Specifically the GBA and NES versions. Those are the best ones. So yeah, I think I've said what I wanted. I don't quite have an outro yet, so yeah, I think I'm gonna take a walk.